everyone, welcome to this next video in the series about the VCDX certification. My name is Johan, together with me is Jeffrey, and today we're going to talk about design decisions. And what you see here is the conceptual part of what we discussed in the second video, and we added some more information. So what you see here is 3 requirements. The on-prem Active Directory must not be exposed externally. Migration downtime for our project or for our workloads should be or must be less than 60 minutes. We need a unified management plane. We have 2 constraints. Legacy on-prem, our legacy on-prem data center is still on vSphere 5.0. We have limited data center capacity to scale out. And we have an assumption that we are expecting 40% growth within 12 months. Finally, we have a risk, which is a false assumption, that the impact currently is that we are unable to grow because of the assumption. So Jeffrey, you already drew like a table.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is how I like to note down my design decisions. You can use all various kinds of formats. I see a lot of designs that create a single table for a single design decision that allows you to put a bit more detail and a bit more different aspects in your design decisions, such as which risks are identified with a design decision, specifically which requirements you are meeting. I even saw a blog post that describes, putting alternate design decisions, alternatives in your table. I like to keep things neat and clean, and so I mostly use a simple table containing an identifier, a design decision, description, a justification, and an implication. And I guess the last one is the most important part of a design decision. Because every design decision that you make as an architect, you are kind of weighing. You're always weighing 2 options, and there's always a negative impact coming out of each design decision, no matter what you take. So it's really important to identify, what the real implication is of a design decision. And I see a lot of quote unquote bad examples. For example, we need to reserve 100% RAM on a virtual machine. And the implication will be RAM will be 100% reserved. Well, that's kind of, that's obvious. So that's not a real implication. The implication is, how does that decision impact the rest of my design? And am I still meeting the rest of my requirements and desired outcomes?
Yeah.
So based on this design scenario, if you look at, if you recall the previous conceptual architecture, we kind of went with a hybrid cloud architecture based on the requirements and constraints that we were dealing with, and now we're going to draft them down in a bit more detail. So the first basic design decision that we had to make was scaling out to a hybrid cloud architecture. That's all based on the assumption that we need to grow 40% in the next 12 months, and we're dealing with a limitation in our data center capacity. So we need to mitigate the risk involved, and we made a decision to do that using a hybrid cloud architecture. So design decision 01, hybrid cloud architecture. So what is the justification for that? Well, in a couple of words, you will normally describe. We're dealing exactly what I said before. We're dealing with a growth anticipation. We need to meet or mitigate the risk of not being able to meet the business demand. So in this case, I will just keep it short and simple. We need to accommodate growth. In an actual design, you would obviously be a bit more elaborative in this.
And like Jeffrey mentioned, there's not a right way to do this. What I like to do as well is add another column to the table, which dictates or which states which requirements are being met. But again, there's not a right way to do that. I also saw designs in which a table at the end of the design exists, where you can see what requirement and what design decision are linked to each other.
Yeah, that's how I did both my VCDX designs.
Yeah.
I just put all the design decisions and the requirements in a traceability matrix, and I just cross-reference all the design decisions with the requirements and the constraints.
It is very important that your requirements are being met by design decisions. So either the traceability matrix or another column in the table here. It doesn't really matter, but it is really important to cover them.
Yeah. So the last important element here is, what is the implication of this decision? So this is kind of a big impact. We're going to extend to a public cloud service. I'm guessing that legal and compliancy would like to have a say in that. So the implication is that we will need to validate with compliancy, legal, etc. And this is just an example. You can think of other implications, more technical ones, but in this example, the implication is this is the first cloud service that this company is going to consume, so they need to check some boxes on the legal side. So moving on, let's take a look at another set of requirements. So we need to migrate our workloads within 60 minutes. So we're going to leverage HCX, number two, very sharp, HCX bulk migration. That is a technology which we kind of elaborated on in previous videos that allows you to do bulk migration of workloads. You use vSphere replication underneath to replicate all your data into the VMware Cloud and AWS, and you can decide on your cutover moment during a service window. We're well meeting that 60 minutes downtime. So the justification is meeting the requirement of 60 minutes of downtime. There are some implications here, because HCX comes with a set of requirements, and I noticed that we're also dealing with a legacy environment in our data center that's still running vSphere 5.0. If you look at the prerequisites of HCX, we need to be at 5.1 at least. So the implication is that we need to upgrade our vSphere environment to meet the prerequisites and the supportability requirements of HCX. Another important implication of the decision to choose HCX is that, if you recall our physical design, we were using a private VIF due to security reasons. If you use a private VIF with HCX, that means that you need to have NSX on-prem. Otherwise, HCX will not be able to create the desired connectivity for your environment. Yeah. So those are two. I'm kind of making a mess out of this, but this design decision is justified by meeting those requirements, and we have a couple of implications that really impact our design, because having to do NSX on-prem, that's a big investment, that's a big effort that we need to take. So big implication here. Last but not least, if you look at our unified management plane requirement, we need to leverage a specific technology or a solution there, O3. That's what we call hybrid link mode. That allows us to connect both vCenter servers to each other, and you create a single point of view for both environments. Yeah. So we're going to leverage hybrid link mode because we need a unified management plane. And what would be the implication of using hybrid link mode? Well, we do have a requirement here that says that we cannot expose our on-prem AD environment to our cloud service. So that's kind of a tricky thing, because hybrid link mode needs to be connected to an SSO domain on-prem. Thankfully, there is a solution for that, but it's an implication. The implication is that we will need to use something that's called the Cloud Gateway. That's an appliance that you can kind of put in place before your AD as a sort of a proxy. So that kind of meets the requirement of not exposing our AD to a cloud service while meeting the unified management plane requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, again, this is maybe not the most elaborate example of, diving into requirements and that sort of stuff. But hopefully this kind of gives an idea of how to break down design decisions and how to justify them and really identify what the implications are of that design decision.
Yeah, and it's really important in your design that it doesn't really matter what kind of technology you're going to set up or what if you're going to choose between 2 or 3 or 4 nodes of a certain technology. All of those design decisions need to be covered in your design because the architect, for instance, of the customer needs to be able to validate why certain decisions were made. So it's really important to cover basically everything. Yeah, cool. So Jeffrey, thanks again for explaining this to us. For now, thank you for watching, and I'll definitely see you next time.